No one could have predicted how much worse the situation would become in just 19 months. Consider these facts. In 2008, our federal budget deficit, which is how much money the U.S. government needed to borrow to pay all its bills, rose dramatically to $459 billion. Last year, due to extraordinary economic conditions, our budget deficit exploded to $1.4 trillion. That's over $4,500 for every American. And the total projected deficit over the coming decade will be $16 trillion. What about the national debt? In September of 2008, the national debt was $9.6 trillion. Today, it's almost $12.7 trillion, a 32% increase. That's nearly $41,000 for every American. And our budget deficits and national debt are only part of the problem. If you were to add up all of our nation's total liabilities and unfunded promises in Social Security, Medicare, and other programs, you would get over $62 trillion, $6 trillion more than in the fall of 2008. This is how much money our federal government would need invested today to pay for our nation's major liabilities and promises. How much of this $62 trillion do we have today? Zip. That's over $200,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States. For decades, our leaders have warned of the dangers of our large and growing national debt.
Part of our trouble is that we have been self-indulgent, and now the bill has come due.
And yet today, the situation is more dire than ever.
Understand, if we don't take meaningful steps to rein in our debt, it could damage our markets, increase the cost of borrowing, and jeopardize our recovery. I refuse to pass this problem on to another generation of Americans.
The U.S. debt crisis in prophecy. There are many theories about what will trigger the U.S. debt crisis. However, the Bible tells us what will push the U.S. into crisis. The prophecy that describes what will cause this crisis is found in Habakkuk. Habakkuk's prophecies state that they are about the Babylonians during the appointed time of the end. Here is what Yahweh says in Habakkuk. Will not your creditors suddenly arise? Will they not wake up and make you tremble? Then you will become their victim. Because you have plundered many nations, the peoples who are left will plunder you. For you have shed men's blood and have destroyed lands, cities, and everyone in them. In other words, the creditors of end-time Babylon will suddenly wake up and do something that causes the Babylonians to tremble. This situation will ultimately result in the Babylonians becoming the victim of their creditors. Yahweh also states what will cause this to happen. Because you have plundered many nations, the peoples who are left will plunder you. For you have shed men's blood, and you have destroyed lands, cities, and everyone in them. Notice, because you have plundered many nations, the peoples who are left will plunder you. This could be the way Babylon has used its economic and political power to dominate other nations to their benefit. And it also says, for you have shed men's blood. You have destroyed lands, cities, and everyone in them. This part of the prophecy has not yet been fulfilled. The end-time Babylonians have not yet killed people by destroying lands, cities, and everyone in them. However, when they do, it will trigger the U.S. debt crisis that looms over the nation at this time. The time of the end has come. It is time to wake up and turn to Yahweh in obedience to His commandments. The U.S. debt crisis in prophecy. There are many theories about what will trigger the U.S. debt crisis. However, the Bible tells us what will push the U.S. into crisis.